Time now to take a look at some stories making recent headlines. Every week, Helena and I think, okay, it can't get more ridiculous than this week. And every week, the British media doesn't fail to deliver. This unbelievable story gripped headlines over the last couple of weeks. And just gonna read it. The Telegraph headline: Pupil who questioned classmate identifying as a cat called despicable by teacher. LBC put it in these terms: teacher brands schoolgirl despicable after she refuses to accept classmates' claim that she identifies as a cat. So process that, think about, how that makes you feel, okay? And then process this. There was not a single pupil at this school who identified or claimed to identify as a cat. Yet these are the headlines chosen to tell the story.
So how the hell did this happen? Well, here's a summary. A 3.5-minute recording of a teacher and a pupil arguing about gender identity was shared on TikTok. In it, the student is quoted as asking if they, i.e. another student, want to identify as a cat, although this word is indistinct and it could be saying like cow or carrot or something, then they are genuinely unwell, crazy. The teacher argues that this linking of gender identity to an animal is rude and offensive because it disregards the range of gender identities that people can have. In the clip, this teacher then calls this attack on gender identity despicable. The TikTok audio is picked up by Fox News and the ultra-conservative group Turning Point UK, and then, of course, GB News. And then after that, it hit mainstream news outlets, including, as we've read out, the Telegraph and LBC, but also the Daily Mail, the BBC, ITV. This led to, and I actually cannot believe this happened, the Education Secretary ordering an investigation into the school. I'm not done. The Equalities Minister demanding a snap Ofsted inspection. And Rishi Sunak, the literal Prime Minister, condemning schools that are allowing children to identify as cats, horses, and dinosaurs. Like, okay, the school have now confirmed in a statement that this clip... Sorry, we'll just take a laughter break. Okay.
Oh my God.
The school have confirmed in a statement that this clip was part of a longer ongoing conversation about gender identity between several pupils, and it had already become heated before the recording started and before the teacher got involved. And crucially, they've confirmed no one at the school identifies as a bloody cat or a carrot or a cow.
Yeah, okay. Now, if we were kind, we could put it down to basic fact-checking and say, these reports didn't even have enough time to actually watch the video they were writing about. Well, it's actually pretty evident in the article that they understand the reality and they still choose to write headlines that claim a student or that strongly... I'm trying to say, do they imply or do they literally state that a student identified as a cat? Yeah, and that the teacher called someone challenging that despicable. So it's not an issue of fact-checking. This is a deliberate manipulation of the facts. This is a deliberate fabrication of a story out of thin air. Is this even news?
I wish it was news because I really feel like my privacy's been invaded as that student who said I was a cat. And I don't like you assuming that I don't identify as a cat, but aside from like what you just said, like the fact that the names you've dropped that have like posted it, like GB News, even it's like, well, there you go. Like, and maybe, that explains why the viewings are so low on GB News.
BBC, ITV,
ITV,
Girl.
the Telegraph,
Well,
LBC.
even that, to be honest, I'm never shocked by anything these days because I literally like 2 months after which is why we first met, Helen, 2 months after my BBC documentary came out, then there was the massive piece that it was like front page of BBC News that was like trans women are forcing lesbians into having sex with them or something like that. That was it. Lesbians being forced into sex by trans women, and it was like wild. And I'm like, how so nothing shocks me. I remember remember I said about the people on my estate. There's one girl, hi Claire, who I was really disappointed by because I thought we were friends, and I remember seeing like her sharing a piece which is very much like similar to this type of piece, where it was, trans people have made Hasbro stop calling Mr. Potato Head Mr. Potato Head, and now Mr. Potato Head is just called Potato Head or something. And it's like, and she shared it. She was like, "Now I accept trans or LGBT people, but this is going too far." And it's like, no trans person ever has ever said anything to do with that. And like, it was like that confirmed that like they just changed it themselves, and like there was no request for it to be changed. We have bigger fish to fry than Mr. Potato Head, let me tell you that. We have bigger, like, no one identifies as a cat. The only person I've like ever heard say that is Piers Morgan, where he was like, I identify as a black woman penguin or something. And it's like,
yeah, two-spirit penguin.
Two-spirit, and it's just like, okay, great.
Yeah, but that example of Piers Morgan, that happened with this as well, because on GB News, albeit GB News, you know, is not a reputable source, but on GB News, a presenter the next day after this story came out dressed up as a cat and then did a whole opening segment saying, I identify as a cat, don't bully me, taking the piss out of this story, but the story never happened. That's the thing.
I mean, how weak is the argument against transgender rights if you need to invent ridiculous situations to delegitimize rather than actually taking on the core issue at hand?
To pose us as, like I said, and this is what I said about the cis people comment, where I was like, we've just been posed as like these really like angry people who are changing the fabric of society and making everyone change the name of everything and cancel gender and cancel sex and cancel Mr. Potato Head. And it's like, no, like no one identifies as a cat, and please don't lump those people in with trans people, because that's not, baby, no.
The scary thing is, it started off building traction by far-right outlets and in far-right online spaces, explicitly radical neo-Nazi groups peddling the story, and that was borrowed and that migrated into mainstream spaces and made it onto the BBC. And so what we are actively seeing here is evidence that fictional far-right narratives are making their way into the mainstream, that the extremism is becoming mainstream, and it's something we need to be really on guard for.
You know, we actually really do have to address, I know through the laughter and everything, but we actually do have to address how a TikTok led to the Prime Minister making a statement. Like, that's serious. That is serious. Like, has it gone so far that a TikTok is leading to that 2 year 8 pupils talking about gender identity on a social media app has got into the heart of government? Like, what does that say about us?
Yeah, when he doesn't even have time to to get this country on track and make sure people can pay their energy bills.
I mean, the same Prime Minister who made the joke about trans women in that leaked clip as well, you know, where he was like, blah, blah, blah. And it's all this stuff about like having a penis and da-da-da. And it's all like terminology, like, can women have a penis? Identifying, it's kind of going back to your thing about language, where like, it's like dog whistle terms, like lobbying, like the other, I can't remember the other word you used earlier. Gender ideology. Identifying. Have you ever heard a straight person identify as straight? I don't identify as a woman. I'm a woman. I'm a trans woman. I do you know what? Tell me I can't say I'm a woman. I don't care. I'm a trans woman. I really don't care. I don't fucking identify as anything. I'm myself. I'm sick of, and I hope any trans people listen to this as well, we stop playing into this whole identifying thing. We're not identifying as anything. It plays into this whole thing of us being like super overly politically correct and super overly political. I identify. It's like, no one speaks like that. Can we stop this whole identify thing? I don't identify.
I am.
I identify as a problem. Yeah, that's what I identify as.
Think, therefore. I am.
Literally. Jesus Christ. Nothing shocks me. It's just, and it also, the thing what you said about the GB News guy coming out in the cat thing, it just like, and even the Piers Morgan doing his little bit where he said he's the two-spirit penguin or whatever. It just, there's your bully. Like, that's a bully. You're making fun of two-spirit people. You're making fun of, indigenous cultures. You're making fun of trans people. You're making fun of penguins. You think you're big, Piers? I don't think you should be making bird references. You look like the pigeon lady on Home Alone.
Next on Media Storm. penguins.
You identify as a pigeon.
Looking back. Charlie Craggs, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people follow you? Think you slipped it in earlier anyway.
Oh, did I? I don't remember that.
Anything to plug?
I just want to plug how much I love and appreciate you. I'm not going to plug myself for once. I'm going to just say thank you so much for... You don't understand the good you're doing, like by especially like your listenership and especially the women listening who, like people like I said earlier, might not know trans people in real life, might be getting dragged into these conversations, might be getting dragged down these algorithms. You're doing so much more than you realize, and I'm so eternally grateful. Like really, really from the heart grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mean that. But you can find me at Charlie_Craggs on everything, including Bumble, Tinder, Christian Mingle. No.